Welcome to Inside Politics, and thank you so much for staying with us. Deputy President DP Gachagua is now off the hook in a 7.4 billion shillings graft case that had been hanging on his neck and threatening his political life. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions successfully withdrew the case in court due to lack of evidence. Ruling on this matter, Senior Principal Magistrate Victor Nakumile noted that neither the prosecution nor the defense had opposed the application to drop the charges. David Muthoka reports from court.
After a series of run-ins with investigators over an alleged 7.4 billion shilling scandal in the past 24 months, Deputy President DP Gachagua and 9 other accused persons will no longer have to look over their shoulders, at least for now. The Milimani Anti-Corruption Court Thursday morning granted an application filed on Wednesday by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions seeking to withdraw the graft charges against DP Gachagua and 9 others due to insufficient evidence.
There being no objection to the substantive application by the prosecution to have the matter withdrawn under Section 87A of the Criminal Procedure Code, the application is hereby granted. Now, the accused persons are hereby warned and informed that they may be rearrested in future and on the same or similar charges.
The court further directed that the 12 million shillings deposited by Gachagua as bail be returned to the deputy president, while passports also taken from his co-accused, among them Nyeri Senator Wahome Wamatinga, be returned to them as well. The recent withdrawal of the graft charges has now seen the list of cases that have fallen by the wayside in recent months grow up in number. Other cases dropped include a 19 million corruption case against Public Service CS Aisha Jomo and a 300 million shilling case against former Kenya Power Managing Director Ben Chumo due to lack of evidence. In Thursday's ruling, Milimani Senior Principal Magistrate Victor Nakumile put the DPP and the DCI on the spot over the recent rise in withdrawn cases, blaming the two for preferring charges against accused persons without tying every loose end. This, he noted, had been occasioned by bad blood between the two agencies.
I'm horrified to learn that we could sit here hearing matters, yet we are still fishing for evidence. We write and write and write. Yet the matter, some matters really, it would appear, have been brought probably on account of public interest.
In his ruling, the senior principal magistrate has recommended the creation of a pre-trial judge with the main duty of ensuring that cases meet the evidential threshold.
I know of people who have divorced because they took plea. It is not something simple. The decision to charge, in my view, must be exercised judiciously, sapiently, impartially, and independently.
He has further recommended that lawful action be taken upon the DPP or the DCI in instances where charges are preferred prematurely.
With the introduction of personal prosecutorial and investigative liability, such officers would be able to stand firm, unshaken, and resist the devil at all times. They would say, I'll face the sack. I mean, you can't push me to do what is wrong.
Nakumile insisted that it was time that both the DPP and the DCI began to own up to their mistakes that have so far seen numerous corruption scandals remain a mystery. David Muthoka, KTN News, Nairobi.
Thank you, David, for that story. Mukua, two things here. First of all, the magistrate, the senior principal magistrate, appeared to lecture the DPP and the DCI on, how to do things. And secondly, the off the hook for the deputy president, and it, sort of liberates him or, gives him some freedom, as you've had for now, at least, because the magistrate said they can be rearrested again. But when you look at those two things, him being sort of a quote-unquote victim of circumstances he has always held, and the institutions that have been trusted to carry out investigations and to charge, not appearing to do their job. Moving forward, what would you like to see?
Essentially, Nakumile is questioning the capacity of the DPP to take a decision, and also the DCI. Then he has also noted there are a number of persons who are arrested without the benefit of solid evidence. Somebody's arrested, and then now you go start looking for a crime, or you start looking for evidence. And in my view, the global picture would be, because when the DPP was interviewed by KTN not long time ago, yes, he said that he was under duress, yes, that somebody was breathing on his neck, and he responded to media pressure. So there's a very high chance that he took decisions not on his own motion, but he now says that under the current administration, he now has capacity to take decisions on his own motion without succumbing or responding to any pressure. And in my view, what we must do is have a commission of inquiry to look at all the decisions that he has made. Because there are people who were charged during the previous administration, and all of them are saying, wait a minute, if the deputy president and Aisha Juma and others have been set free, what about my case? What about my position? So in my view, what Mr. Ishmael Nyaribo must do as a lawyer and the LSK is to proactively work with the state and come up with a commission of inquiry to investigate all the decisions he has made. Because if he says during the prior administration he worked under duress, has he given us assurance that under this administration is not working under duress? Or in fact, right now he's working under duress? Because when the DPP pronounces himself, the way they say, like Caesar's wife, nobody is supposed to doubt his word. Nobody is supposed to cast aspersions on his integrity. But right now, when he says things, people look at him, they roll their eyes and say, oh, we've heard this before. So for him to have that very solid reputation, for people to respect his decision, he has in my view, has got two options. Either he can he can resign, because Nakumila has been very bitter with him. There are people have been going to court, spending hours on end, trying a matter. Then at the end of the day, you are told, wait a minute, we don't have sufficient evidence, or we are acting under duress, we wish to withdraw. So he has the option, he can either resign office today, so that we get another DPP, or failure to do so, Mr. Nyaribo, because he's a member of LSK, to push for a commission to investigate all his decisions, so as to give Mora, Sadia, and Wanjiko reassurance that the DPP, in fact, is his own man.
Mm-hmm. Ishmael, what are the conversations going around the legal circles about the incompetence or lack thereof, as has been described by some of the institutions that are involved in the criminal justice system? And then now we've seen a new face, even the police with a new inspector general, with a new or rather with the chief justice, and the judiciary also appearing to restructure themselves to look, or rather to accord justice as it would be. Shall we be saying that perhaps in the next 5 years or after the next dispensation, some will be saying to avoid the situation of, oh, I was chased, I was asked to pursue this because of this and such interests?
Yeah, I think the tragedy about these conversations is that we are prosecuting exclusiveness. We are having an exclusive club whose cases can be dropped anytime they want, and yet the rest of the Kenyans are suffering the same fate, but their cases are still lingering in court. In fact, the principal magistrate has said that he knows of people who have divorced because a partner was charged of probably very heinous crimes, and the other partner had to run away, and yet it's based on false allegations. So there are several ways we look at this. Of course, many lawyers have their own views, but I take the position that these are political withdrawals, because as you can see, in fact, the magistrate has said clearly that for now, you are free. You could be arrested. Section 87A allows, if there is any new evidence, you can actually be brought back to court, and criminal cases don't die, whether it's 100 years. So if I was the one advising, my advice would be, I would bring the deputy president into a crushed hearing of 2 or 3 hearings, and the magistrates then acquits me or acquits the deputy president. An acquittal can never be brought back to court. But a withdrawal like they have done, which is purely political, in fact, is only giving you temporary reprieve. If a new president, let us assume, Raila becomes president or Kalonzo Musyoka becomes president, and they bring this kind of policies, change of policies, they will actually arrest the deputy. Then he would be a good citizen. They would arrest him and take him back and get some DPP. They can push through newspapers like our friend Haji and get the deputy president prosecuted again. So I would have crushed the hearings into 2 or 3 and then get the magistrate to declare that there is absolutely no evidence and the charging itself was wrong, and this particular person is acquitted completely without. It's very fearful, actually, for those who know criminal practice to tell me that you are withdrawing under 87 and tomorrow I could be arrested. If there is a vindictive police officer, he would just arrest me and say, now I have a new element, and as long as my case is not as popular as the deputy president is, the deputy president's, I will be taken to court. But having said that, Maringa, what is our High Court of Kenya doing? This is where actually the elephant is. People who are accused falsely, like the deputy president, for example, can go to a commercial civil court and seek compensation. And that is the benefit of an acquittal other than 87A. I think that policy was trying to ensure that nobody goes to file a plaint and, claim for malicious prosecution and unlawful detaining a person and then charging them. So what is the High Court saying? The High Court should come out heavy and punish the specific police officers who arrest somebody. There's a judgment by Justice Mumbi where she had found that the specific responsible police officer should be made to pay for inconveniencing people like this. So I think that the High Court of Kenya should also up their game and ensure that where they see citizens are actually being mistreated, they should punish the state, but not only the state, the specific police officer who brought a person to court should be made to pay. If they spell out, stern, penalties and the fines on the specific police officers under the state, these things will stop. And unless the High Court does that, if it's going to sympathize with the police officers because they have probably been pushed, we are still going to have several cases being brought to the court. And lastly, Maringa, all cases, I said before, after handshake, should be withdrawn from our courts. En masse. Because it is clear from the DPP, from the police, senior police officers have shown statements, from the court, the senior principal magistrate has said that some cases are being brought to court like this. So, en masse, they should be all removed. Even before we do this commission, my brother is, proposing, we should have all these cases withdrawn. The president should release all these people on presidential pardon, and then we start afresh. Everyone then will feel like he's a Kenyan. But this exclusive prosecuting favors for the State House officials is actually not fair to the rest of the Kenyans.
Bichache, as you contribute to this, when you look at institutions such as the presidency, it is fallouts are not stranger to such and divisions are not stranger to such institutions. We saw what happened in the previous regime, the president and his deputy, whereas another president may, the conversation of another president would have to wait until such happens. In your view, do you think that by withdrawal of these cases, then it means that either one has to toe the line to avoid a disruption that would mean resuscitating or resurrecting these cases, or what's going on in your mind when you look at these withdrawals?
No, but Maringa, the questions that we are answering here miss the germane issues that these particular withdrawals mean. First question that we need to ask is there corruption in this country? Because there seems to be corruption that is perpetuated, but they're not perpetuators. These perpetuators, the people who do corruption in this country, are vapor. They do not exist. They're untouchable, unpersecutable, unseeable. But
are you about to introduce hot air?
Yes, it is hot air. It is because, listen, in this country, other than Waluke, apparently there is no other corrupt person. That is what the DPP is saying. That is number one. Number two, do we have a free, fair, credible criminal justice system in this country? We just saw people talking about the security agencies in this country. We must ask ourselves, from the petty thief in Nairobi streets to the chicken thief and to the guys who've stolen billions, Can we trust the DPP, who having a higher office than the DCI, can be frustrated by a mere DCI boss to bring cases to court? How more independent should someone be who has security of tenure? The president can't fire you. By God, even God can only fire you by killing you. Right? Then you tell me that you are easily pushed around. The issue here is not whether the DP Gachagua has gotten freedom. It is whether Nurdin Haji should be sitting on that seat. Because if you can be pressured by Kinoti, who can't pressure you? You know, the questions, we treat these issues as though they're not fundamental to how our criminal justice system works. So the chicken thief that was put in jail the other day, what was the evidence? What was the evidence? If now evidence is willy-nilly gone, this country needs to look itself in the mirror. And we need to stop these jokes. Because, Bana Maringa, let's be clear. Corruption happens in this country every day by the admission of everybody. But we arrest no one. And we want to pretend that in this country, listen, for Safaricom to make 30 billion in profit, they have tens of thousands of employees. For a hospital to make a certain profit, they've got tens of thousands of patients coming in. It is only politicians who have a business that constitutes me, my wife, and my child. And between the three of us, we can make billions. And it is acceptable. These politicians need to tell every Kenyan, what is the magic they do, so that all of us who are in business can follow, where you make billions without having a factory, without having a business we can touch or feed. We are joking as a country. What am I supposed to tell my child when I wake up to work every day and I cannot afford 10 acres in Karen? And yet a politician whose salary we know can afford millions of acres. And I'm not talking about Kenya Kwanza, I'm not talking about ODM, I'm talking about almost every politician in this country. Where, when they are seated to be vetted, they mention billions the way as guys tell the people in the village, I'll send you 100 bob. We are joking as a country. And Nurdin Haji, by the way, if you admit you brought cases against people by the pressure of the then administration, then guess what? You're worse than Judas Iscariot. You have brought a needless pain on people, needless pain on innocent people to suffer. You should resign if that is true.
Malika,
if the opposite is also true, you should also resign.
I want to help my brother before he boils over, because he seems to be very passionate about this. Let me say this. This government must quickly settle down and work. This notion of double prosperity gospel, where you will just get money all out of the blues, does not work. In fact, I saw that the Deputy President is still very excited that he could sit next to Justice Koome, and while he could not sit next to her the other time round because he was a culprit in court. And I saw the President also saying, this is, we are here just by miracle. I mean, the head of state actually says that we are in State House because of miracle. And yet, you campaigned and you won by 233,000. So, this is the point I'm trying to say. Forget all this excitement feeling now. Go into office and look at realities. So that you can give Kenyans equal opportunities to make money. But once we have been given equal opportunities to make money, I want to correct my brother, or rather give my view. You will see parking boys come to town every day, and they have not made any money in the morning, and they will just be showing you how to park, and you will look at that boy's pocket, he has 2,000 in the evening. Just because he was standing, he disciplined himself. He did not go to be a to indulge himself. He stood there, and by evening he has 2,000. There is this concept of brokerage concept, where you really do nothing other than arranging a financier from here will take money here and this one, and in the agreement you are looked at. When you talk about corruption, corruption is totally detrimental and bad to the nation. But let's not assume that money cannot be made by private people who necessarily are not directors anywhere, but they stand in between. They make deals in terms of they know that so-and-so wants this company wants that thing, and they go in and they are the ones who structure agreements, work with lawyers, work with the tradesmen, and people make money that way. But if a politician also knows that concept and can make money genuinely that way, that's money. But expecting that I must have a factory or you must have a factory to make money, Maringa, that at least our viewers should know that. Yeah, give me just a moment.
Let me correct you. Our own laws state that if you have resources which you cannot explain, the state will take it back. Why? Because for that parking boy, for his 2,000 shillings, he says, I saw a parking lot, I saw a driver who needed to park, I showed. That is consulting, parking consultancy. You can see he did work.
You've made your point.
You cannot say that there is no process by which you got money dropped into your lap.
It was my mic.
Your Moses making money.
It was my mic. Thank you. Now, Maringa, this is what I want to say. There is this issue of meritocracy, and it has been in this country for so long, where we expected the kids from Alliance and Harvard, and then they became lecturers, and we hoped that because you are so bright in class, you will make so much money. This is not true. That's the point I was trying to correct. That when you see private business people, they call themselves business, actually. They probably don't even have an office, and then they have made money. So I was only trying to compare or contrast that not only politicians make money, which we do not understand, even private citizens, we are making money every now and again. But you should not assume that meritocracy means if you have a factory, it will translate to a lot of money, or if you have a PhD, it will translate to a lot of money. I am introducing this concept that even agency business, where you are actually assisting other people to do what they do, is actually bringing in a lot of money. But in terms of when you are being asked, and we have seen in the interviews, how did you make your money? Of course, you should clearly be able to demonstrate by the agreements you present or by the elucidation or explanation you give. But never assume that the highest level of learning or the best factories in town will produce the best billionaires in town.
So let's move to the other topic and subject, which is on cabinet secretaries and other public servants of rank who are settling to life outside power, and what could be called orphans from the previous political regime. Mukwe, as you come in, when you look at how there seems to be, whereas there comes in a regime that says it has been offended by the previous regime, the witch hunt that would have been expected, considering the threshold that had been set before, is not there, and these CSs who were once powerful have now to settle back in life. What do you make about of all these happenings? Is it a mature democracy that you are heading into? Are we mature already, or what are some of the issues that come to mind when you look at it?
I think it's about a mature democracy, because we've had now we are on our 5th president.
Yes.
When President Moi took over, he treated President Kenyatta's family with a lot of respect, and Kibaki treated Moi in a similar manner, and then President Ruto, or rather President Kenyatta, did the same thing. And in my view, President Ruto now has raised the bar by saying that in as much as you didn't want me to become the president of the Republic of Kenya, but I realize you've got some assets that we can use at the regional level. So I'm going to support you to do the regional peace process, which in my view is a good thing. So that when you get office, you do not start beating up the previous administration, arresting everybody, and making the country unstable. Well, granted, there are a number of the public servants of rank, especially the cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries. Maybe for the last 10 years, they never encountered traffic. So for the first time when President Kenyatta left office, now they're encountering traffic. A number of them, for the first time, have discovered where the petrol station is located. For 10 years, they never went to a petrol station. And this is a reality. You can imagine if you're a powerful cabinet secretary and you've got your home in the village in Mosocho and another one in Nairobi, and when you wake up in the morning, the first people you interact with are armed policemen who are guarding you. But at the moment a new cabinet secretary is sworn in, you wake up in the morning, so the only person you see is your wife and children and maybe the 2 domestic workers, which is a good thing, so that we realize when you are given this power, do not misuse it. But again, there were a number of personalities who are not necessarily public servants of rank, but had a lot of power. People like, say, David Murathe, people like Alfred Kitonga or Nancy Gitau, who wielded a lot of power. In fact, at some stage, those three personalities I've named, they would call cabinet secretaries, and cabinet secretaries would go running. They would drop whatever they're doing because those personalities have made phone calls. And those are the same personalities who are accused of trying to frustrate Kenya Kwanza assuming into office, doing a lot of propaganda, doing a lot of manipulation in the media. But now, because there's a new normal, they've settled to a new normal and they're accepting reality. And moving forward, we should now treat our especially at the presidential level, when you become a president, you treat the former president with a lot of respect, and also for the cabinet secretaries. Because I recall communications from State House suggest that President Ruto had a cabinet meeting with the old cabinet, even hosted a lunch for them, and they had a dinner for them, so that they can compare notes. Because, you know, a number of them were very nervous, especially the ones who had stepped on the toes of President Ruto. Yes. They suspect that when he takes office, all of them are going to be in trouble, but he has treated them you know, in a very classic manner. But coming to the issue of generating wealth, you know, you must not work hard in a factory or in a farm to become wealthy. What Nyaribo was talking about, some of the richest people in the world are called transaction advisors. When companies are going to the stock market, you've got a category of people are called transaction advisors. They'll make a fortune, but they don't have an office and they don't have a factory.
Thank you.
You know, let me tell you something.
Yes.
These guys are proving my point. You say financial advisors, transactional advisors, they make money. Yes. You say a parking boy, he makes money. You are describing what he does. For you to make money in this world, you have to do something. Yes. What I'm simply saying, that in this country, we need to be able to explain to our children how we have many billionaires and we don't know what they do. We need to deal with that reality. We need to deal with that reality. We cannot run away from it. And why I'm saying this, and this is not a Kenya Kwanza thing, it's not an ODM thing, it's not a Jubilee thing. Many of our politicians, for decades now, have very questionable amounts of money. And at the same time, we keep saying that our country is corrupt. But we don't arrest anybody. This country needs to look itself in the mirror and ask itself, how are we going to bail the cat that is called corruption in this country? That is a national issue. It is a national emergency. The same way we need to deal with the security issues in the CBD. When we're talking about people being stabbed and muggings and things like that, those threats are equal, in my view, to the grand corruption we see in this country. Someone may stab you directly with a knife, but someone who denies NHIF the opportunity to pay your bill is actually potentially killing you also. This country needs to come to Jesus and have a moment where we repent from the things we do.
I think that's a very good remark, because this is Sunday. This is this is the government is a Christian government, so I think they will understand.
Well, it's a secular government. It's not a Christian government.
But anyway, this is what they have said.
The president may be Christian, but it's secular.
I mean, they are praying. They have said their honorable wives, I mean, the first ladies and second ladies respectively, they are prayerful, and the president actually prays for the cabinet meeting. So in as much as you get offended,
he knows Kenya is a secular state.
Kenya is a secular state. This one, no one needs any definition. But the people managing the secular government are complete Christians, head to toe. So when Bichachi says the country needs to come to Jesus, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's so easy for Dr. William Ruto to understand that. But I wanted to come back to this concept of how you treat former state officers and public officers. Very important. Very, very important. There is an emerging trend of trying to divide communities based on what your public servant who comes from your community was doing to us, to the State House people, to the president and deputy and the other leaders. This, we don't even have to say it has to stop, because by nature, everybody will revolt to ensure that they protect their own people. So what I think, what the president has done to the former president is very good. That must be replicated downwards. When you lose, there is something that happens. You definitely learn a lot of what you did and what you need to do in the future. When you win, there is always a tendency not to learn that actually how you won took certain metrics, and you need to respect your competitor completely. So this business of trying to attack Raila, this business of trying to attack the former PSS and the CSS should actually be shelved completely for the sake of moving forward. Indeed. And you should show a lot of extreme respect for those people who assisted the country in the last 10 years.
Indeed. And, you know, that's why we take another break. From when we come back, we want to we'll open the lines for you to be able to call in, and the lines are there. You can call in for your views, of course, to the panel, and also to the topics that we've discussed. Channel your views. Of course, you'll also be taking to Twitter to sample your feedback as well. But do stay with us when we come back. We want to have your call regarding Inside Politics, the show today. Do stay with us.